And we're live. Welcome to the Redman Group on 21 Live, episode 10, broadcasting live from Orlando, Florida at 21 Studios Global Command. Today I'm joined by the Redman Group, per usual, Rollo Tomasi, Ryan Stone, Carl from Black Label Logic, and Andrew Tate, Cobra Tate, and who's new to the group for this episode. And he's actually a former world champion kickboxer and very successful entrepreneur. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us again. This is going to be a good one.
Yep. I think so. So like we always do, we start off with a little roundtable. What do you guys have going on in your life and new at work and stuff like that? I want to kick that off by saying that next week, we're launching tickets to the 21 Convention 2018 of Orlando, Florida, being held this October. It's going to launch to alumni only, and then later in May, it's going to launch to the public. So stay tuned for links and information. And if you guys want to attend, and you help, like really should, come out this year, and stay tuned for tickets. Rollo, what do you have going on?
Well, I unfortunately lost one of my greyhounds this week, so it was kind of sudden. I think I posted a little bit about it. So whenever I lose a gray, it's like losing family, of course, but it's like all the people that I work with when it comes to like my greyhound charities and all that kind of stuff. It's like you kind of have to go through the round table of people and let them know, what happened. And, it was, there's a lot of people, I think when it comes to adoptions and stuff like that, when it comes to greyhound adoptions, it's almost like joining a cult really. And so many people are, interested in your dog and what happened to them because their dog is probably related to your dog in some way. Because there's a lot of the same, breeding and breeders and stuff. So just kind of dealing with that. Also, again, still working on on book 4. Still doing stuff with Pat Campbell. We'll probably talk about it today too, but we were talking about the Incel killing, I guess, the Incel driver in Toronto. So we got into that quite a bit and did that. I'm still working on the series that I've got going right now, which is Instinct, Emotion, and Reason. I'm moving on to Emotion right now, and I think this will probably be the most controversial of the whole thing. I'm considering actually making this topic something that I might get into at the 21 convention as well. So I'm sort of taking notes as I'm writing this, and then I don't want to give this away too much, but the Polish translation of the first book will be available in May. So Poland is going to have a very strong, red pill group there at some point, just doing the publishing. So
they'll love you. They'll love you.
Yeah, I know. And we've been talking about maybe going out there and doing a talk and doing just doing sort of a book tour type thing once it launches. And that's just the first book. We also have plans for the other 2 as well, and possibly the 4th when that one hits. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. I would love to get to Poland and meet some people there. So
Rollo, any update on the 3rd book, the Audible version of the Positive Masculinity?
Sam is still working on that. It's funny because Sam is, ever since he started reading my books, he's getting other people that are asking him to read for him. And I know that he's reading Ivan Throne's book right now for the Audible version of it. And so I think once he's done with that, he's on to mine, or he's might be working on mine by now, I think. So I would say probably by midsummer.
Cool.
That'd be my guess. So.
Good shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, before actually moving on to Ryan, I forgot to mention that we just launched yesterday, released the Rational Male, Positive Masculinity, the Q&A session that Rollo and I did at the 21 convention last year. So that's new on 21 University, and a preview just went out on YouTube, and the full version will be out on YouTube in 1 to 2 months. So it just came out.
I can't wait for those like after talk interviews that we did too. Those are good.
Oh, the podcast. Yeah. We'll get those out.
Awesome.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, those are good. Ryan, what do you got going on other than trucks running people over where you live? Oh, you're on mute, buddy. You're still on mute.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah,
they got garbage trucks blocking our way now. It's pretty good. Same as Rollo right now, honestly. This isn't really my job. I don't get paid doing this. And so right now it's more grind on that side of things. So I'll keep this one short and sweet. Besides, I want to hear Tate run his mouth here. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Carl, Tate, I need you can hop in if you want.
I ain't got much interesting to say. You guys are all writing books and stuff. I mean, what did I do? I drank some vodka and went to the casino. You know, I'm just out here living life. Every day I'm breathing, I'm a happy man. I try and keep. I know it sounds really cliche, but I really try and stick with that basic mantra. So I'm just out here doing my thing, work wise, and still trying to stay in shape, etc., etc. The summer's just come where I am, Romania. It goes to like -20 in the winter, and then it's like plus. I'm talking centigrade. So in American talk, I don't even know what that is. And then it's like
what city are you based in?
I'm in Bucharest, so I'm in the capital. So it's just got hot here.
Cool.
It was freezing cold. It's just got hot. So I'm kind of enjoying the summer a little bit. There's 100 little summer spots to turn up at. That's just it for now. Nothing too crazy.
Sounds like Reno.
Carl, you back online? You have dropped out there for a second.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, I'm back.
Cool. I know you dropped a new post recently. I've not read it yet. What is it? 99 problems and soy is all of them, I think.
Yeah, so it's everyone.
Yeah, soy is, oh yeah, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was something I talked about when we did our last show, and it was just one of those, I like coining my own words occasionally, like gendernomics, and in this case, I coined something called soycology, which is this ecology of soy boys.
Jesus. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to read it. Just for the new term.
Yeah, the post is in essence that a lot of these guys in their massive effort not to be one of the mean guys to turn themselves into a bunch of mean girls.
Pretty clever, actually.
Yeah, I know. I'm usually pretty clever.
Yeah.
But also to celebrate having Tate on, I also cracked a bottle of Macallan 30 just to kind of keep it up there.
I ran out of time. I grabbed some whiskey myself today. I noticed Ryan usually has it. Ryan, you dry today? What's going on?
I am dry today. I don't know what the fuck. I
What
ran
the
Jesus
fuck,
or
man?
something.
Fuck, going purple pill, man. Fuck.
We'll see. I got Maker's Mark in the thing. I'll probably sneak off at some point if one of your stories goes on a little too long. So
Yeah.
That'll be me. I'll talk for too long at some point. Don't worry about it. You'll get your drink in.
Well, let's move on to our first major topic for today, which is what Rolla mentioned at the beginning of this talk that he was talking about Pat Campbell on a radio show recently. So recently in Canada, some incel guy basically who was praising Elliot Rodger, took a truck and committed mass murder. So let's talk about that. I mean, the fact that he cited and praised Elliot Rodger is, I think, the first time that's happened since Elliot Rodger committed his atrocity years ago. Floor is open to that for everyone wants to hit off on it. Rolla, it sounds like you already have some commentary on it.
Well, I was going to say, me and Pat were talking about this on Friday, and we can. I kind of hate it because it's like whenever there's a school shooting or there's some sort of act of violence and it's a mass shooter. Like I said, my first assumption is either it's Islamic terrorism or it's some lonely guy who's lashing out, whose girlfriend dumped him, or something like that happened. And sure as shit, that's exactly what happened in Florida, and it's exactly what happened with the DC kid who shot his girlfriend and some other kid. And so, of course, what am I thinking? When I hear that somebody ran over, and I thought for a minute maybe it was sort of terrorism. In the sense that maybe it was Islamic terrorism, because it sounded like it was some, it's sort of the MO for these guys, in France and other places. And so I thought, well, maybe that was it. But then, of course, it turns out that it's not. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, what's going on? And then I see people throwing out the term incel, and I'm like, oh, great, here we go. And I wanted to be sure, like I didn't want to believe it right out the gate, because I saw, I know how 4chan works, and I know how all these guys, want to throw shit on the story as quick as they can to get people to believe something that maybe it's not. So I kind of held off from it. I didn't want to get into it too much, but then apparently there were some Facebook posts about this guy and talking about, the incel uprising or beta male uprising. I don't see beta male, but these are the guys who just like are like Elliot Rodgers. But I think that they sort of take it to another level. And whenever this kind of thing happens, it sort of follows the same narrative or the same plan. And what these guys, what we're seeing right now. And I'm actually surprised that this story isn't a little bit more popular than it was, or a little bit bigger. Maybe it was because it happened in Canada. I'm not really sure. But
dude, there's a few angles on that. I'll get to it after.
Yeah, well, I think that the narrative follows like the toxic masculinity part of things. They're going to blame it on toxic masculinity, and then they're going to blame it on the red pill, and then they're going to blame it on the MRAs, and then they're going to blame it on MGTOWs, and they're going to find there's always some angle for them to try to dig into this. And so I see these guys on Twitter, and I see these articles, and suddenly these guys who I've never heard of in my freaking life are like, experts on the manosphere. They're experts on incels. They're experts on the red pill. And it's like, and every last thing they pop off with is one more, you can just see just how misguided these guys are. But they're, looking at it from my perspective with a red pill lens, and being a writer in the sphere for as long as I have, I'm waiting for each and every little point that they're going to put out there, because I know that, those particular misunderstandings, or they're just willfully ignorant about that, because they want to, again, they want a white knight. And the way that they white knight is by throwing anyone and everyone under the bus. Now, fact of the matter is like, I'm not saying that incels can't be dangerous. Obviously, this guy was dangerous, but I mean, the guy's confirmed with Asperger's. He fits the profile perfectly. Confirmed with Asperger's. One of these true force loneliness guys. One of these guys who thinks that they understand red pill and they understand intersexual dynamics, but then they lose all hope. These are these guys who can't cross the abyss. These are the guys that people want to say, well, these are the most extreme cases of people going black pill. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that there is even a black pill to begin with, because what I see it as is I see it that guys become red pill aware, and they don't want to give up their blue pill hopes. They don't want to do that, especially if they're guys who they don't know, they don't know how to be alpha. They don't know how to pick up girls. They don't, maybe they tried, maybe they went and did, pick up art, they did PUA, maybe they tried RSD, maybe they tried someone else and it didn't work for them, or it wasn't the magic, formula or the magic pill that they thought was going to get them the girl of their dreams. And so they start hating on that. They start freaking out, because they begin to realize that they accept that red pill truth, but they also have to understand that they're not in a position when it comes to like sexual market value to really capitalize on it or really do anything. So they get hopeless about themselves. And I just posted this, and somebody gave it to me off of one of my comments, but this half an hour documentary on these guys who are like shy guys, or love shy. I think it was what they called it, love shy guys. And basically they're incels. There's the guys who are involuntary celibates, and they would very much like to get with girls, and they would very much like to have some sort of relationship or some sort of intimacy with a woman. But
now, Rollo, that was a documentary, Shy Guys or something like that?
Yeah, you can check my Twitter feed for it. I'll dig it up here in a minute, and I'll put it in the group chat, and we can put it out there if you want. But these are the guys. I'm just using them as an example, because these are guys who are hopeless. They're hopeless to the point where they can't. Oh, did I lose everybody? I think I lost you. Oh, okay. They're hopeless. They're hopeless to the point where they become destitute, and they become nihilistic, and they become suicidal, or they want to find some way to lash out instead of going the self-improvement route, which a lot of red pill guys go. They go the opposite way. They just completely shut themselves off. Now, I think in Japan they have this. I think it's this classification of guys called hikikomori or something like that, where these guys who are like these shut-ins, who just, these are the guys, the lost generation that, Peterson and all these other people talk about. These are the guys who shut themselves off and cut themselves off, except for their online forums. And so
that's where they come from, all these fucking weirdos.
Yeah, because now they have, back in the day, now, I grew up in a time where, yes, there was a lot of guys who were pretty much hopeless nerds, right? But they didn't have these global forums where they could get together and commiserate. And so that's one aspect I think is going on. The other aspect is, like, if you look at people like right now, like one of the reasons and I said this too, when the Red Pill movie came out, when the documentary came out, I said, now MRAs get to own that. They want to go and they want to say that
our documentary is called The Red Pill. Where, you know, up to that point, they hated anything that had to do with the red pill until some feminist decided that she wanted to go and create a documentary called The Red Pill that included them. It was really about her, but it included them. And so now that we have this killing, now that we have the next Elliot Rodger, it's like, if this kid wanted to say he was red pill, and God knows what's going to happen because this guy's still alive. What's he going to say? Where's, you know, how is he going to, you know, what other articles are going to be written about this guy after the fact? And so,
well, it's going to be interesting to watch the MRAs and Paul Elam and all them move away from the red pill.
Yes, they're gonna twist in the wind. They're gonna say, well, that's not what we think the red pill is, or that's not. You know, they're gonna throw it under the bus because that's exactly what they did at with Elliot Rodger and. Who else was it? Joe Rogan, of all people, who I would say is pretty much red pill in a sense. But as soon as Elliot Rodger happened, he threw all those guys under the bus. And so as soon as
go on,
Carl.
Put a positive spin on that. I would say that at least we get to see Paul Elam bawling on national TV again, because I've honestly missed that. I mean, Paul Elam crying on live TV it's just a sight to behold.
I can't do it, man. How do you watch a man cry? It happened once when we were in parade with this fucking retard, and I was just awkward. Like, I was still laughing because it was fucking hilarious, but I couldn't do it.
Ryan, before we move off you, let's get your perspective on what happened. You're pretty close to what happened physically, right?
Yeah. At first, we were proud because we're like, oh, thank God, it's not like America where we lock everything down and freak out over one incident. But then they started throwing garbage trucks outside my building to block the street every time they have a Jays game.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ban the
seems
trucks.
Like a waste, such a waste of money, but whatever. Do you remember, you know, when you have prescription drug commercials and they say, you know, like 2% of people are going to have an adverse reaction to this and get diabetes from Xanax or whatever? I think this is kind of the same thing with unchecked thought culture. You're going to get 1 million guys who basically can't get laid because they aren't hot like Tate with his attitude. And out of those million, you're going to get a small percentage that are going to go crazy. I think this is pretty much a side effect. It's not like it's a side effect. It's going to happen. And the more we lean towards this single mom, I'm just going to call it thought culture because it's more clever and less nerdy. It's just something you have to put up with. It's the same as like the US, the Rust Belt. You know how the push for globalism, so all the coastal elites could have their internet and they were just told to sit here, have some heroin and go die. And then you get some extreme examples of like they elected Trump. It's the same thing there. It's all kind of, you can see it go. The thing that scares me though, concerns me is when you hear people talk about them, they keep calling it incel culture, incel ideology, which they're antisocial and they're not successful relationship-wise. There's no culture by definition. The only reason people call it a culture or an ideology is so they can lump them together and then load them up into boxcars. I do worry about that. Like I can imagine this is extreme, but remember Logan's Run? By 30 years old, you have to get recycled. Picture by 30 years old, you have to have slept with a girl or they throw you into a boxcar. That'd be fucking freaky. I know it's not going to go that far, but it kind of does. And then you see people, they're just selling sugar water. The trans community came out with some things. The fucking Armenian genocide came out. Those guys using this to sell it. And I'm just wondering, those families, are they going to feel good knowing that their dead loved one's legacy is helping some advocacy group get more donations? I think their reaction troubles me more than a guy grabbing a van and hitting people.
Makes sense.
Wow, I really ended that on a sad note.
Yeah, there you go.
Tate, give us something happy, man.
Yeah, what do you think, Tate?
Well, I think there's never going to be anyone at the bottom of the food chain who's going to be happy about it. Like it's as simple as that, man. There's a food chain of life out here. There's a hierarchy, and if you're at the bottom, you're going to be pretty pissed off. And it doesn't matter what you read. It doesn't matter if you read Red Pill or anything else. You're going to be pretty pissed off being where you are. So that's the first thing. And when we talk about these guys being incels, they're absolutely antisocial. And people who are antisocial are not going to be successful with relationships, but they're not going to be successful with anything. They're always going to have, problems in any kind of sphere. They're going to have problems getting along with other people, problems at work. They're always going to have problems the whole way across. What I find most crazy is this. If I go and run a bunch of people over in the name of Islam and I scream Allah Akbar while I do it, nobody would dare associate my actions with Islam. All of a sudden, that's nothing to do with Islam. But this guy's done what he's done, and they want to plaster a whole bunch of other people with it. It's bullshit, man.
Well, I think that's the marriage between Islam and feminism. Rollo sent me a book recently that talked a lot about this, the rise of radical feminism, and how they closely ally with Islam, especially the radical elements of it. So yeah, it's fucking bizarre.
It's more than bizarre. It's absolutely contradictory, and it's fucking retarded. That's what it is. There's no way you can be a feminist and embrace Islam in any form. What these people, in my view, are doing, they're just trying to disagree with anything they can disagree with from the Western culture. They're looking at Western culture. They're looking at America, which was traditionally built by powerful white men, and they're thinking anything that's the opposite of this is good. Women being more powerful than men is good. Brown people with Islam is good. Fuck Christianity. Like, it's just madness. Like, the things don't even co-align. These people's arguments and worldviews are so conflicted. It doesn't even make sense. I've been to Muslim. I was in Iraq only a few months ago. I've been there. You can't be a feminist and agree with Islam in any form, because they're very open and honest about how they treat females. But then they want to come along and tell us we're bad. And, because we have a view of life which allows us to feel empowered as men and to live lives authentic to our expectations and authentic to our desires, suddenly we're bad. But if we stone a woman to death for cheating, we wouldn't stone a woman to death for cheating on us. I mean, come on, we're not the full way, like it's really crazy. I don't know how these people
that
come
takes
up with
hours, man. How do you have the time for that?
Well, it's, and I'm glad I'm glad you kind of make that connection, because I think that a lot of, sort of the angle that, what I call the femisphere, the angle that these writers are using right now is they want to say that these guys have been radicalized by the red pill. They want to say that these guys are, is equatable with terrorism, like what this guy did, right? And yes, the guy went and got in a truck and ran people over. That's pretty terroristic, a pretty terroristic act. But the idea that the red pill is radicalizing these guys is absolutely ludicrous when you think about it in its entirety. They're using this as some way of saying that that this is sort of an organized or systemized form of misogyny, and watch out, because you never know, one of these guys is going to try to run you over or run your daughters over or something.
Feminists shoot up YouTube and brag about trying to blow up or thinking about blowing up the White House right in front of it. So interesting. Or Andrew, go ahead.
Female fucking privilege, man. It's absolute garbage. I don't know why these women are so desperate and so offended by a guy who's authentic to himself. This is why I got banned, man. I said, look, I'm a 31-year-old man. I like to sleep with lots of women. That everyone lost their fucking minds. Like,
that was it?
Since the dawn of human time, have men not wanted to sleep with multiple women? Since when? There's never been a time in history where that wasn't the case. Kings and sultans, they always had 5 wives and 8 mistresses. Under Islam, which the feminists love so much, these dudes have 8 wives, and the wives don't say shit. Like, all of a sudden, a man's not allowed to have sexual desire. A man's not allowed to have sex. A man's not allowed to be happy or strong or big or anything. A man just has to sit there and pander to some female who pretends she understands the world. It's absolute garbage. The reality of the entire human condition, that reality to a degree is sexist, and men have always acted a certain way, and men have always been allowed to get away with things that women haven't been allowed to get away with. And this is historical, and it's evolutionarily been proven. And the female is these women are so desperate to just demonize men for being a man. You just exist as a man. If you're honest with yourself and your feelings, you are the enemy. And it's garbage. It's absolute garbage. And I'm not going to apologize to anyone for acting how I feel I should act as an individual. That's part of the mechanism, or that's part of the system when it comes to feminism. The ultimate, I think it was me and Hartis, you came up with this side. Well, probably more Hartis than me, but the maximum goal, or the ultimate goal of feminism, is the maximal unrestricting of women's sexuality and women's sexual strategy and hypergamy. It's the maximum that they can possibly get away with, while at the same time maximally restricting men's sexuality and men's sexual expression.
Nagging your way to victory on a societal level.
And well, what's interesting is for all of the disagreements I might have with Jordan Peterson, he did say this recently. He said that he sees a day where any form of male sexual expression will be outlawed or will be criminal. I'm like,
do you remember that? Do you remember? And I'm going to use this word very particularly, so I'm using this word. Do you remember that bimbo who walked through New York and she made a video of the number of times she got catcalled.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Remember her? And like the most crazy thing about it was, I remember doing the math. She walked through New York for like 12 hours, and she put all these catcalls together to make it look like she was constantly harassed. But if you divide the number of catcalls by 12 hours, it was like once every 27 minutes or some shit. Like, so
Oh, and they were so tame.
Yeah, and they just said hello. Like at some point in history, your grandfather went up to your grandmother and said hello. That's the reason we all exist. That's the reason the entire planet is populated. And your stupid ass wants to come along and try and criminalize interhuman, the basic dynamics that allow a man to get laid. And you want to criminalize that? They didn't touch you, they didn't hurt you. This is crazy. And then this actually became a discussion. She attracts and garners attention. It's garbage. This kind of agenda is absolutely and utterly, I'm telling you, my view on it, maybe my view is a little bit conspiracy theorist. But the reason all this feminist craziness is purported by the media is because they're desperate to demasculinize men any way they can. They want to destroy the warrior class of the civilization.
Andrew, you're in good company, man.
It's the only way they can get away with what they're doing. If there's no other way, and I'm talking about Western Europe, because America is actually a lot better than Western Europe is. Where I lived in England, Western Europe is fucking finished. You have no freedom of speech. It's domestic violence if you yell at a female. A woman can go fuck your best friend. If you yell at her, you're getting arrested. Like,
dude, you can't train your dog.
You can't do nothing. You can't talk. You can't tweet. If I had my account tweeting the things I tweeted and I was still in England, I'd be arrested. You can't speak. It's absolutely cucked through and through. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to destroy a man's will to resist, because when men resist, revolutions happen. And the more cucked they can keep men, the more afraid of their wives they can keep us. It doesn't matter that the birth rates fall and all that shit, because no one wants to marry these low-quality females. They just want to keep men subservient, paying their taxes, little ants in a worker fucking system. It doesn't matter if we're depressed. It doesn't matter if we're unhappy. It doesn't matter if we want to kill ourselves. We pay our taxes, and we shut up for long enough, and we allow them to tax us in England at 55%, take all our fucking money. It's garbage, and they're only doing this. They're doing this by just destroying the man's will to resist.
Yeah.
That's
well, hey,
why
Andrew, remember
big strong alphas? They don't want it. They want little tax slaves. They don't want anyone else. They don't want people who think.
Speaking of the Muslim thing too, you remember the Arab Spring, obviously. Do you know that was an incel that basically got beat up by a woman, and that's what started that whole shit? You heard about this? Yeah, the guy who lit himself on fire. There was a female cop. He went $200 in debt to have enough money to buy oranges to feed his family. She fucking confiscated all his shit and slapped him in the face. So he lit himself on fire. Now, if you think about it, that incel we just had here and that guy, the only difference is whether their grievance was considered valid by society at large. So you are right with that whole, like that violence thing. There's a good side to it too. So unless you don't agree with the Arab Spring.
What's interesting is they try to make it an ideological issue, and in fact, it can be broken down into the fact that these guys can't get laid. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, and Carl had Carl. You want to tell him your line here? It's like no guy who is no guy who looks like Andrew and makes the kind of money that Andrew does kills himself to get 72 virgins in the afterlife. I mean, when you look, I wrote this story. I think it was part of the Dangerous Times series where I was talking about how, or I would read this article about the danger of polygamy polygamy for these societies where these guys are taking more and more women away from other guys. So if you have the money and you have the resources, you can have 4 or 5 different wives and it's culturally acceptable, but it ends up creating like a really hostile, violent society because of that. Because for every 2 or 3 women that you take as your wife, those are 2 or 3 guys who aren't getting laid. Those guys are the ones that are easier to radicalize, because it's easier to say, hey, if you join, Boko Haram, we're going to give you a wife. All you got to do is pull a trigger for us. Yeah. And you believe in that. And of course, they're going to be happy to do that because that's the only way that they can, ideologically even get laid. But yet they're seeing this other guy who's this warlord with 7 wives. And of course, that looks like a pretty good deal for them, because that is what's status wise, socially significant to those guys.
Carl, do you want to hop in?
Yeah, I wanted to comment because I think what Andrew is saying is very much related to the tweet you did the other day about the chicks attacking the bouncer.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're kind of living in a society where it used to be that if a guy did something to a woman in public, the question would be, okay, what did she do to get him to lose his temper? Yeah. Because it takes for most guys, there's a certain level before you lose your temper in public. Someone has to push you a bit too far for that to happen. So guys would ask what happened. But in this case, it's like a woman could come at a bouncer with a katana raised over her head. And if he pushes her away to avoid her chopping him in half, you'd have like 8 white knights stepping up to him like, hey, what the fuck you doing, bro? Don't put your hands on her, bro.
White knight bullshit. You know what? Twice in my life have I ever saw a dude kicking the shit out of a chick and kind of not got involved, but I mean, this guy was fair. He wasn't giving her a slap. He was like kicking her ass, like proper haymakers. And as soon as I stepped in, she started hitting me too. Fucking this bitch turns around, starts hitting me for hitting her dude. Like, what the fuck? Sometimes you don't even understand these situations. Like, sometimes I don't get involved in any of that shit anymore. Like,
That's the
I
problem,
get
man.
the dude do what he's doing. I'm just like, whatever. I don't know the backstory, so fuck it.
Yeah, I'm from Redneck Town, same way. She'll jump on you first chance he gets because that's that drama she craves, and it's fucked up. But for some reason, a lot of girls get off. Well, some girls get off on it.
Well, females exist for attention. Females exist for attention. If you're beating a woman's ass, she's getting a whole bunch of attention. So, you know.
Oh my god!
You know, they want attention. It's
Hit the nail on the head.
Focused attention. His fists are aimed directly at me and no other bitch. I'm getting
His
all
fists
the
are aimed at my
right
heart.
Well, some women have nuclear-powered hamsters as well. So even a man beating the shit out of her in public, if you stop him, her hamster is already in the process of rationalizing that, and you're interrupting that process. How rude!
Yeah,
So,
true.
it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that video. I saw the video that you posted with the bouncer and all that, and that reminded me so much of so many different situations I've seen when I've been out on promos. Because these, liquor, even if you didn't have liquor involved, women have gotten to a point where they believe that their security is pretty much insured. So they tend to get a little bit more hostile or belligerent because they're strong, independent women, and they get all sassy, and you add a little bit of alcohol to that. They believe that some guy, is going to step in and break up the fight, or they think that some guy is going to go and fight the fight for her. And I'm seeing this a lot more. That's why when I saw that video, I'm like, man, I'm seeing this like a lot more these days. I'm more sensitive to it. Once I started being more of a red pill, once I had a red pill lens, I started seeing all this kind of stuff in real life, man. It's like, what are these women thinking? Because they're putting their own safety on the line, and they don't even realize that they're doing it. That's
it's
how
not even the
certain
safety.
they are.
It's their fucking lives.
Mhm.
These women, a lot of these women don't know. The truth is this: a lot of these women don't know the difference between a man and a woman's strengths. I'm not saying that a man has to come along kick well, maybe, but I'm not saying a man has to come along kick their asses. But they need to know the difference between a man and a woman physically. The problem is this whole fucking feminist agenda now. I wrote a tweet the other day. I said, there's not a female on earth who could kick my ass. So there's your equality. and that's the truth. Like, there's not a woman alive, fucking Ronda Rousey, whoever, who could fucking touch me. So that's the reality of the situation. But these women don't even accept that now. If you tweet men are physically stronger than women, there's going to be females on there who disagree with you. So I don't even think it's so much about these women hoping men step in. Some of these chicks legit believe they can trade hands with these dudes. And they might beat up some fucking soy boy once or twice. And they think they can hold their punches. If they take a proper shot from a proper dude, that's life-ending shit. That's forget safety. That's life-ending. And these women
just do what Christian does. Offer to buy him a plane ticket over and you can take him in the ring. They'll shut them right up quick.
Any feminist who wants to shut me up the old-fashioned way, I'm ready to throw down. We can sign away.
Well, that's exactly what I thought with the video that Rollo and Carl were talking about. This bouncer with 3 women attacking him repeatedly for like 10, 15 minutes. He could have easily killed them. He didn't, but in any instant, he could have instantly knocked all their teeth out or fucking literally killed them.
He did like one push and they all fell over like bowling pins. I was like, what the fuck?
Yep.
That's like a Home Alone sketch.
And those are the same women who want to be in combat and stuff in the military. It's fucking crazy, like delusional.
And it goes back down to like all these problems. You can just boil down to the lowest common denominator, and it goes back down to gender roles and everything we were saying about that. Why? What self-respecting woman in her right mind wants to be in a combat role? Like really? Like, what's the benefit? Like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. If I were to meet a woman and she says I really want to go to war and get shot at and live in the mud, and I'm just like, why? Like, is your childhood been happy? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And all these women in general, when gender roles are all fucked up, they're starting to think they're all Mike Tyson. It's madness. It's insane.
They just get NATO knee when deployments come anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, that comes back. That goes back to the idea of the difference between the equality of opportunity and the equality of outcome. And when women want to get into combat roles, or when they want the outcome to be them winning all the time. They want the outcome to be the warrior princess. That's why they want the outcome to be women in combat, but those women never get shot. They're just heroes. They just do the shooting, or they just do the rescuing, or they just have this magical capacity to, compete on the same level that men do. And it's this desire or this want for that equality of outcome, or whatever they perceive as an equal situation, but they want the outcome to favor them, even if it means having to lower the standards and change the fundamental nature of that particular task or that game. And in the case of, what Andrew's talking about here, that can result not only in these women getting themselves hurt, but it's also can get other guys killed because of that too, just because a woman wants to, or I say a female primary society wants to believe in this fantasy of the warrior princess.
Yeah, and it's absolutely a fantasy. I mean, I watched a video the other day. I'm not too far from Ukraine. I drove to Ukraine a couple months ago, and I watched a video the other day of when the fighting was really bad a couple of years ago between the Russian separatists and the Ukrainians in Donetsk. And I watched the video, and it was a body cam, and it also had the radio mic feed of the Russian soldiers. And he was basically saying in Russian to the HQ, "I'm surrounded. We're running out of ammo. There's only 15 of us left. Like, we need evac." And the Russian HQ said, "There is no evac." And he goes, "There air support?" They said, "No, there is no air support." And he said, "You have to send someone. We're going to die." And they said, "Sorry, good job, soldier. Bye." And then he said something else, and they literally replied. He said something like, "Look, we need help." And they replied to him, "Stop being a baby. You did a good job. Goodbye." Like, that was it. Like, you've just been told, but you and your crew are dead. Like, tell me there's a fucking woman in her right mind. I don't want to be in that fucking situation. No way. And there's not a woman alive who wants to be there. Like you're saying, she wants to hold the medal. But the reality of these combat situations and the reality of violence is not a glorified thing. I'm a professional fighter. I'll tell you this. People think a street fight is, oh, he hits me, I hit them, like the movies and shit. It ain't like that. Violence is a horrible, fast-moving experience. And these women are completely unprepared for what would happen in genuine violence. They need to stop talking violence and acting violence, because when they see real violence, they're going to be very unhappy with the outcome.
Yeah, you can easily crack your head on the ground and die. Sidewalk, anything. Game over. Yep.
Hey, so I guess we're gonna move on here into talking to Andrew here a bit. I gotta ask this though, like, you seem to be like one of the most hated dudes in the manosphere, right? I mean, I don't know if manosphere, but certainly on Twitter. I mean, how many times have you been banned now? Twice?
Twice, yeah. They banned me twice.
Yeah, so you've been banned. And I understand why. I understand why, like, why you upset people and stuff. But like, why do you think that these guys hate you so much?
I think it's three reasons. I think one, the way I word things is deliberately aggressive and provoking. Like, sometimes I make very valid points, and when I've had people who get insanely upset and then an hour later calm down and then inbox me again. You know what? I thought about it, and you're actually right. But the way I say things, even if I have a point of view, which I could easily translate into a nice digestible form, instead I decide to make it as aggressive and as abrasive as possible. And I do that, partially for fun, I'm not going to lie, and partially because that's how I am as a person. I think life is abrasive. Life works this way. Like, a car crash is abrasive. Bam. That's how the world is. So if I have something to say, I just like to say it with absolutely no regard for any kind of feeling whatsoever. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing is, I kind of, one feminist, when I had my verified account, some feminist tweeted this at me, and it kind of stuck with me. She said, "You personify toxic masculinity." And I replied, I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You're a fighter. You have your shitty Lambo. You're always with these girls." Like, and she named all these things, and I was thinking, if you were to like get a caricature of toxic masculinity, it'd be some ex-kickboxer living in Eastern Europe who's like driving around his Lambo with all these chicks talking shit about women. Like, I am the ultimate character.
Oh, the horror.
I'm the anti-hero. I'm the
How
villain.
dare you, sir? You need Jesus.
Sounds like she wanted to fuck you. So it sounds like.
For sure. Oh yeah, she wanted to fuck me for sure.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then part of it, I think there's an envy thing that gets thrown in as well. Like, I'm quite honest and open about what I have and my life I live, and I think envy plays a huge part, especially amongst the men. I mean, at one point, every tweet I ever tweeted was getting like 500 or 600 reports per tweet. They're just desperate to get rid of me, and then eventually they were successful. And you can still Google now, Cobra Tate banned, and there's like forums, all these forums, everyone's like celebrating and posting their email with all the tweets they reported. Like it was like a fucking cult out to get me.
I wonder if Twitter banned you because you were aggressive or just because they didn't want to deal with all the reports. Like, just go. I got shit to do. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting because like I think what you're saying as far as the jealousy is certainly part of it. But I think that what you say, and because I'm to a lesser degree, I mean certainly I'm not that, and my writing is pretty radical when it comes to the ideas that I present, but I'm not out there, getting banned off. I haven't been banned off of Twitter, knock on wood. But I think what you do is you remind these guys and you remind women of the conventional way things are done. You remind them of the person that they probably at some point wish they could be, or they wish they could at least have something close to that. But this
is a point I always make. The point I always make is if these people could build themselves, everyone's played The Sims. When you play The Sims and you go through and you select your characteristics, you choose how you look, whatever. If these people could build themselves from the ground up, they'd all want to be a lot closer to guys like us than the soy boys they are. Nobody would choose to be, I want to be 5'1", I want to be skinny, I want to have a low testosterone level, but I want to be a nice person. No one would select that as their default starting character. That's just what they're fucking stuck with. And they have to get to the gym and fix it, but that's too hard. They don't want to do the hard work of fixing themselves. So instead, they want to attack anyone else who has the characteristics they secretly wish they had. Some of these people tweeting at me, there's a guy called Mike Stutchbury. I don't even know who he was. He was like my arch nemesis. So some really super huge dude. The guy's like 600 pounds, can barely move from his chair, trying to tell me how to live my life. You can't even leave the fucking house. What do you know about life? Like these and these people, they're living a life they wouldn't choose if they had the choice. So completely. And then on top of that, another thing that happens when I usually say what I say, the default response is, this dude has no girls. No man who talks about girls this way will ever get laid. And then when they see that's not true, they lose their minds. That's what happens.
That's common hate. It's misdirection. It's a misdirected hate.
And the only people who listen to it are those who haven't gotten girls.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly the alpha male of Mr. Kickbox and Tate here with his Lambo. But I've actually been so mean to girls, and they've had them still come back to the point where I break character and ask why they put up with it. Yeah. So I know you can be harsh and get away with it. It's fucking weird.
Absolutely. And you don't have to be too big an asshole. Like some of the things I say, people come at me like I'm really the devil. I say, I don't see what I'm saying is so bad. Like I understand why it ruffles a few feathers, but I'm never like advocating really like setting women on fire or any of that kind of fucking.
I'm not. I've worked with guys like you. They talk just like you.
You had that, Andrew. You had this just recently. I think it was in the last couple of days. You had this tweet where you were saying that that if a woman is fixated on a celebrity, or if she's thinking about some other guy or fantasizing about some other guy, that there's no way that you might as well like next to her, because you're never going to be her number one. You're never going to be her fantasy. You're never.
If I have a girlfriend and she's saying, and I don't give a shit, I could be with her and she's my girlfriend, whatever, and she's saying to her friends, "Oh, this rap star or this pop star," or she's following some dude on Instagram, that means in my mind she doesn't love me. I tweeted this and everyone's lost their mind calling me insecure. Yeah. That's not true. A woman truly loves a man. She's blinkered. I know that. When a woman loves a man, there's no other man on earth that she finds interesting. If she truly loves you, that's absolutely the case. And when I tweeted that, everyone's going, "Oh, you're insecure. You're insecure." I'm like, no, I'm not insecure. I'm just telling you, if you have a woman who's fantasizing or even just interested in the actions of another dude, then she isn't completely head over heels in love with you. When you have a woman who's head over heels in love with you, she's going to ask you 100 times a day what you're doing and maybe pester you and annoy you a bit, but she doesn't give a fuck about any other guy. It's actually funny when I still have my Twitter account, I tweeted this at J.K. Rowling. I was saying the only reason you keep beefing Trump is because your husband's such a cuck that you're just trying to get the attention of a real man. So I tweeted at him, and she replied to me. She got all upset, whatever. And then, I said this. I pre-prescribed her condition before I knew for sure. I didn't even know what her husband looked like. Someone tweeted her husband underneath, and he's like the beta-est cuck in the world. Like, you can Google him right now and put a picture up. It's the worst dude ever. So I was confirmed 1,000,000% correct. Anyway, like, what kind of, like, would you really want a wife who sits there all day tweeting at another guy, even if it's hate? Trump, you're so bad. Trump, you're so bad. Trump, there's no way she's sitting there tweeting that over and over again without being a little bit wet. Like, fucking fuck off.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, I think one of the reasons I think that guys hate on that, or of course, you go through the standard, you must have a little dick. Why? Oh, who hurt you? Why are you so bitter? All those standard things. But I think one of the reasons that it resonates with these guys is because it reminds them of the situations that they are in. Because most guys are beta guys. We're saying that the average, at least the Pareto principle average, is 80% of guys are beta. Now that's being generous. Some guys will even go a little bit higher than that. And when you say, look, a woman usually has a plan B guy. Look, a woman can be an alpha widow. She can be thinking about another guy and still say she's in love with you, but she's still fixated on that other guy, which is exactly what you were saying here. But what happens is that it holds up a mirror to those guys, and they get really upset because they don't want to look into that mirror. They don't even want to have the question asked to themselves, like, is this me? And I think that's one of the reasons they get upset with you.
What's most crazy is I had a whole bunch of women retweeting it and like, look at this insecure guy and all this bullshit. And I'm looking at these girls, and these are exactly the kind of girls who would go fucking psycho if their boyfriend followed another girl on Insta. Like, it just shows that they have their agenda, but if you try and flip it on them, all of a sudden you're insecure. It's like, it's not insecure. If a woman, I'm not saying I'm gonna prevent my woman from fucking following dudes. I'm saying if my girlfriend completely loves me, she has zero interest in any other man in any form. And I think that's completely natural. And there's been a few women with a brain who've retweeted this and said, absolutely correct. I know I'm in love with my husband. I'm completely uninterested in any other man on the planet.
Well, that's very similar to what Rollo's talked about, where if a woman's not mate guarding herself, she's not your mate, or something like that, right, Rollo? Rollo, you're muted.
Yeah.
Anything other than a hell yes is a no.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say there is a threshold of genuine desire, and it's really kind of what Andrew hit on here with that tweet, is that you want that 100%. You don't want 90%. You don't want that 80%. You want that 100% where she, like you said, there's no other guy in the world for you or for her. And that's one of the things I think that a lot of guys sort of sweep under the carpet, or they just kind of push off to the periphery of their awareness, because then they get into a situation where they marry some woman and she's fixated on like Chris Hemsworth, or she had a boyfriend back in college that she still pines for. And maybe she doesn't even say it all that much, but she'll admit it to her girlfriends, but she's not going to admit it to you. Yeah. There's all kinds of signs that are dropped. And I think probably the hardest hitting post I have ever written was one called Saving the Best. And it was about this guy whose girlfriend or wife, I think it was, was really non-sexual with him, never wanted to do anything with him, never, was basically when they did have sex at all, it was starfish. It was just sort of duty sex. And yet she would say, I was so crazy in my college days, and I was so, but I'm not like that anymore. And then he found some sort of like amateur porn tapes or some sort of amateur porn that she had done. And he figured it out that she had been doing this with some other guys, that she was, she'd done 3 ways with these guys. He saw the video. And so he was saying, he, understandably was just like, what the fuck, I'm going to dump you. I'm going to divorce you because this is just bullshit. I'm never going to be the guy that you have 100% desire for. Absolutely. And so, this guy was what the side story of this, which was really interesting, is like, all the critics, all the most beta guys were like, oh, why are you so insecure about that? She can have, what's in the past is in the past. And I'm just like, no, dude. I mean, this is genuine desire that we're talking about. This is one. I want, what is it? What the saying is like,
no guy wants to pay full price for fucking used goods.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And so you've got these guys who, who think that they've got a great wife and they've got this great marriage going, but yet there's a part of her that they're never going to experience. And I've heard old women say this about their older husbands, where they will say, yeah, well, he's a great guy, but there's just a part of me he'll never experience, or he'll never get. I mean, they're telling this to their daughters or their granddaughters, right? Just in like warning them to say, hey, look, marry the guy that you're hot for, marry the guy that you're really, really into, because don't do like me, because I love him to death. He's a great dude, but he's never going to be my genuinely desired guy. And having to live a life like that, and then have somebody like myself or Andrew hold up that mirror and have to and force them to look into that. You'll lose your freaking mind. I mean, especially for guys who are now, they come into the red pill later in life, where they're just sort of figuring things out. And they go, these are the guys that hit me up and say, well, I wish I would have had this sooner. Well, imagine you're 70 years old and your wife hasn't been with you in a long time, and hasn't, it basically treats you as part of the furniture. And then you become red pill. I mean, it's one thing to come into red pill awareness when you're like 40. It's another thing when you're 30 years later. But I think it's that holding up the mirror that you have to find all these rationales for. You have to find a rationale to say, well, he's only saying that because he's never experienced a real woman. He's only saying that because he's got a little dick. He's only saying that because he's insecure in his masculinity, and all of these tropes and all of these standard responses that they come up with, because that's the only thing that they have. That point and sputter is the only thing they have left to counter you with. And so, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's admitting they lost the argument. Basically, they're just fucking losers.
Yeah, and it's hard, and I understand that too, because it's like when I'm talking to guys and they just give me even guys that are like, who I would consider red pill, more or less red pill, will still give me grief about that. They'll say, because there's that one part of the red pill that they don't want to accept, that one part of intersexual dynamics awareness that they just, they're okay with it, but they just want to move on to the next thing. And maybe they focus on something more specific, or they focus on things that are away from that, their experience with something that's painful for them to really accept and to acknowledge for themselves. And that's why it becomes a personal truth rather than a universal truth.
Absolutely. And there's a few things you said that are really important. I think one of them is about the no sex thing.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it crazy that there's women out there who won't fuck their husband for a year, but find the idea of him cheating repulsive? You just expect to just cuck that guy and just destroy his sexual appetite and sexual for the rest of his life, and he has to just agree. And what's really crazy to me is, if a woman doesn't want to sleep with you, then okay, she may love you, but she certainly doesn't respect you. Women want to fuck guys they respect. They don't even if they hate you, even if they think you're the worst man in the world, if they still respect you, they'll still fuck you. They don't even have to like you. As long as they respect you, they still want to have sex with you. So as soon as a woman's sitting there saying, no, we're never going to sleep together, she doesn't respect you anymore as a man. And that's the situation you've allowed to put yourself in. And how you're going to fix that is completely up to you. But I mean, it's never happened to me, but I'm very open and honest about the fact I'm a full grown man. I want to have sex. If I ain't fucking you, I'm fucking someone. Like, I don't know what you think this is. You think I'm just going to sit here without sex forever?
I think I think a lot of guys don't really understand the difference between when we talk about respect and respecting women, we're like supposed to have this default respect just because that woman is a woman, just because she has a female status on her, that we are supposed to respect that. But yet when it comes back the other way, men have to earn that respect. They have to be somebody that is respectable for these women. But I think the other thing that guys don't understand about that is they might have the respect of their wives because of whatever it is that they do or whatever service it is that they perform, but they don't admire that guy. They don't look up to him. They don't go, wow, there's nothing that is giving him social proof or pre-selection in that situation. And so there's no admiration there. And so, yeah, I mean, it comes back to the idea of genuine desire, that you need to have that admiration to inspire that genuine desire. And that is exactly why these guys got bent with you when you were talking about how, how women, if they're pining for somebody else, then you don't have her full attention. And it's like, I want a woman who is going to give me 100% desire. I want her to break the fucking law. I want her to go against her religion because she is that into me, that she has to have me.
They call them ride or die bitches.
Yes. Well, that's it. And the reason for that is actually funny you said the religion thing, because about 6 months ago, I was dating a vegan. She said she'd never cook meat. I was like, you will cook meat if I'm hungry. She goes, I won't. I said, you will if I'm hungry, because I eat meat. She's like, I won't. I was like, well, get the fuck out. Get out of my house. I said, I want bacon cooked. If you want to cook it, someone's going to cook it. But anyway, she cooked the bacon. Long story short. So
Good man.
I completely agree with you, you know, and the reason men want 100% is because we have a lot more to lose. You're losing half your net worth. You're losing half your wealth. You'll lose your life protecting her on the street. Like, these are all your roles as a man. Someone breaks in the house at night. You're the one going downstairs. You're facing the fucking armed attackers, not her. And what? And she's going to sit there and not fuck you and dream of fucking some other guy? What planet? What kind of clown world is this? Like, no.
Well, I think
go on.
Well, no, I think it comes down to the fact that Andrew had a great comment in one of his earlier statements where he said the government sees us as cows to milk for taxes. They don't really care about us at any level. And I think that's the same reason why the woman she doesn't want to fuck her husband, but she gets pissed off if some other woman wants to fuck him, because then she might lose access to his resources. It has nothing to do with, it has to do with her losing her milk cow.
Yep.
I mean, nobody wants to lose the money, but don't want to really pay the cost of having it either.
Tragedy on around takes so much effort. I don't have to fuck him twice because some other girl wants him. Fuck.
It's true. But you know, and you're completely right there. I'm telling you, my view on the world is, I've kind of come to these conclusions. I've been to like 65 countries. I've been to a lot of places. And I've noticed that in Western societies, in the richest countries, is where you see the most beta male men. In poor countries, I'm in Romania now. It's the second poorest country in Europe. There are no betas. There are none. They don't exist here. And it's like in the richest countries, they exist. And I didn't know if it was the rich countries that created the betas or if the betas create the rich countries. I mean, to a point, having a man who's 45, his wife doesn't love him, really. She won't fuck him. You know, he wanks off at porn whenever she goes to sleep. His kids don't respect him, but he won't leave her because he can't be bothered with the divorce. He doesn't want to lose access to the kids. He doesn't want to lose his house. He doesn't want to pay alimony forever, you know, and he just sits there depressed, semi-suicidal, raising the kids and paying the taxes. And I think that's far more beneficial to the society than a guy who's like, you know what? I'm tired of this girl. I'm leaving. Fuck it. You can look after the kids. Bye. Like, you know, then who's going to raise the kids? The government does. And I really think that making men, feminizing men to the point where they'll tolerate shit they wouldn't normally tolerate is more beneficial for a Western society than having men who say, "Nah, I'm not putting up with that." No.
Well, in the long term, it'll destroy a nation.
Rich enough that you can put up with it, but not so rich that you can not have to put up with it. That's interesting.
Yeah, but long term, this will destroy the nation.
Well, I don't think anyone is thinking long term, because if you look at it, a politician's job isn't to secure the country's survival for the next 50 to 100 years. It's to get reelected in 4.
Yeah.
So you get inherent short-termism. I have this in the conclusion of an upcoming essay that when you put women into the workplace, that was great for the short term because you double your labor force, you cut down on your labor cost, and you increase the taxable population by 50%. But in the long term, your birth rate goes down, you get more divorces, and your next generation of children are not raised by their parents, they're raised by any fucking else. And we know that single mothers who raise kids raise horrible children. They either end up being sluts or school shooters or in prison for some other thing.
Yep.
And statistics back then, they have higher rates of mental disorders, they have higher rates of maladaptation to society. So it's all in all negative, but it was a great boon for the fucker who put it in the first place, who could, hey, we just increased tax revenue by 25%.
Yeah, from what I understand too, single motherhood is the #1 predictor for a lifetime of poverty, crime, prison time, drug abuse, behavioral disorders, everything like you just said. It's like it's probably
for the worst thing and the mother, actually, because that's the crazy thing that no one looks at. If you want to avoid being into poverty, there are 2 major things you have to make sure to do as a woman. Don't get knocked up before you're 25 and married. B, don't be single when you're 40. If you have one or both of those, you're basically going to die alone and in poverty. And that's the reason why I also invested a lot of my retirement account in PetSmart.
Hey, before we move on, or before we continue, let's actually make it clear that everyone listening live on YouTube can actually ask questions right in the live chat. And for those of you watching who are not in the chat for whatever reason, you can actually text questions live to 1-256-792-8212. Again, that's 256-792-8212. Text questions, keep it kind of short, and put in a name, first name or anonymous name. we'll take
Before
them
we
live
move on-
throughout the show.
Before we move on, we just quickly address that past
Yeah.
is past bullshit. You know, about the woman and the porn and her past is her past and all that kind of thing. I'll be interesting to hear your point of view on that. I think we're on the same page, but just the reasons why.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's forgiving of a woman's sexual strategy is what it is. I've written books about this actually. I think that a lot of guys, you know, we were just saying a little while ago, 80% of guys are beta males. Okay. They're, you know, I hate to use the term beta male because it's just really sort of an abstract term, but it's like, these are guys who are on the low end of the sexual market value. Okay. These are the guys that women rate as being, you know, less attractive or unattractive. Okay. So you've got these guys, you've got a society that is building, you know, little boys into young men who are bred and raised to be these perfect little subservient guys, to be these dutiful husbands, and to you know, can't believe their luck when they finally get to a woman's epiphany phase when she hits about 30 years old, and realize that they're finally, their ship has come in and they've got a great gal and they want to get married with her and have kids and all that. But yet this woman has gone through, most likely has gone through her party years, which, you know, her highest fertility, you know, points is right around 22, 23 years old. And so, you know, going up from like 18 to about 22, and then from 22 down gradually to about 28 years old, those are the party years. And that's when she's going to go out there and do what I call the Sandbergian plan for open hypergamy. And what that is Sheryl Sandberg wrote this very famous quote that I've quoted several times, you know, many times, where she's basically encouraging all the women, when it comes to dating, she's encouraging women to date the bad boys, date the bad for you guys, date the commitment phobic boys, date basically all the alpha male guys that you can during your youth, when you are at your peak, you know, fertility, you're at your peak sexuality, you know, your sexual
she's running as your wingman.
And then when the time comes, cash out of the casino and find a good, dutiful beta who is going to support you and be a good father and you know, provide you with long-term security. Well, problem is now is that in the data age, in the technology, you know, age of technology, where we can go back and find people's tweets, we can go back in history and find if a woman had done, you know, amateur porn or something like that. It's really hard for guys, you know, back in the day, following that plan might not have been as hard as it is today. So a guy has he can do one of two things. He can go back and understand that a woman is in her party years and what she'd done in those years and who she was in those years. And you can go into denial and accept that, or you can simply have nothing to do with that person and not deal with that and find somebody who is a little bit more into you as opposed to into you because of what you are at that time. And so the reason that they say the past shouldn't matter is because that's a very common social convention for women, is the reason that they want to, you know, forgive that or get rid of that or erase that or have it not be as important, you know, and threatening you with the idea that if you do find it important, that it makes you insecure in your manhood. If you find that her having, you know, gangbangs in the college years was, you know, that's just something, she was just growing. It was her you know, her journey of self-discovery. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Rolly, you notice it's always the bad past that doesn't matter. If she made you a sandwich last week, you'll never hear the fucking end of it.
And that's one of the things that I always say is like, that's what feminism and the feminine imperative want to do. They want to allow women to have their sexual cake and eat it too, kind of thing. You know, they don't want to be held to that.
And where's the benefit of any of this? That's what I find most crazy. So there's no.
Well, the benefit is that you can't have a guy who's like, say, you know, some computer programmer or whoever, you know, who gets to be, you know, 30 years old and he still hasn't figured out how the game is played. They got to keep that guy ignorant. And if that guy is smart, if he's aware of open hypergamy, and I don't see how you can't be in this day and age, but if you're unaware of it or you go into denial and you say, well, the past is the past and it doesn't matter anymore, you're just setting yourself up for what you get after that. But the benefit is that if a guy can be kept in ignorance, and if he can't be kept in ignorance, then he must be encouraged to go into denial, because it will have to, because their long-term security depends on that guy for, you know, forgiving and forgetting, or never knowing, or going into denial about the fact that if that woman is not 100% into him, is if her desire is mitigated in some way, if she doesn't have genuine desire, or it's, you know, it's been negotiated, God forbid you try to negotiate desire, if that's what's going on, you're going to be that guy that the wife later on says, well, he's a great guy, but he'll never experience all of me, you know.
Well,
and
here's
so,
something that I think is really important to bring up per your line of work, Rollo. These women don't end up happy like they think they will doing all this clever shit. They end up miserable in their 50s, drinking themselves to death at record rates.
Right.
It's like suicide of an entire generation.
I have, and this is a famous story, but I'm going to tell it real quick here, because I know Andrew works with women. I have promo girls that come out with me on promotional stuff, martini fests, things like that. They're otherwise known as like booth candy, but we call them poor girls, like poor girls, and they're there basically to flirt with the guys who we're trying to, you know, either get to invest in a company or to invest in a brand, that kind of stuff. So it's basically like if you go to a convention, you have booth candy, you got women there who look good, so they attract guys to your booth. I work with these women, I select these women, and I've on several occasions, you know, I eavesdrop on their conversations. I heard one girl say to the other, "Would you ever have sex with the guy on the first night?" And the other girl goes, "Well, yeah, of course I have. But not with the guy who is relationship material." So she's saying basically that she'll have sex with the alpha dude in, you know, on a moment's notice or on a same night lay. But if the guy seems to be in some way a good fit for her as a relationship, then she's going to give him more hoops to jump through. She's going to make him more, you know, she's going to, the idea is that she wants him not to think that she's a slut, and should not to seem like the kind of girl that would actually go have the same night lay. But the guy who is relationship material, she'll make him wait. She'll put rules out for him. And Andrew probably understands this. It's like women will make rules for beta men, and they will break rules for more alpha men. Yep. And the reason for that is because they know that beta guy and that guy represents long-term security. He represents parental investment. He represents the, you know, for a lack of a better term, a resource transfer, transactional sex, as opposed to validational sex. Validational sex is the kind of sex she has with the guy that she's really hot for. That's the guy that she meets on same night and has sex with him because he's that hot and he's that good of a hypergamous proposition. Whereas the guy who is beta, he's got to jump through hoops. He's got to prove to her. And of course, when they get older, when they get into their what I call the epiphany phase, and they want to get their lives straightened out and they want to be better, you know, they don't, I'm done with the bad boys. Well, no, you're not done with the bad boys. The fact is you just simply cannot compete with your sisters to get the bad boys anymore.
Absolutely. You're not young.
And you've got to cash out of the sexual marketplace. And so what are you going to do? Well, you've got to convince yourself as a woman that you're doing things the right way now. And all the stuff that was in the past should not matter anymore. And if it does to this guy, well, he's just insecure in his manhood for not forgiving me of like the gangbangs and the orgies that I had when I was in college. And so it's interesting how women can be absolved of their sexual strategies, whereas men are even held to a higher accountability when it comes to the long-term marriage, long-term parents, that kind of stuff too.
Well, they try to. Yeah. Some guys don't put up with that shit. Case in point.
Well, that's the thing is open hypergamy is changing that. And it's women that are doing it. It's not guys like me. It's not that like guys in the red pill community. It's women themselves are because they're triumphantly tooting their own horns about how they're going to, you know, even if Sheryl Sandberg, for Christ's sake, you know, the CEO of Facebook is basically confirming open hypergamy. I mean, that is a pretty good example of open hypergamy being out in the public sphere right now.
Yeah, we actually had a question about that in the chat. and it was for the entire panel. Anybody wants to hit on it from you, viewers, Scooby-Doo. Question for the entire panel: what is the next step after open cuckoldry? How far will this go?
Bonobo style, you're going to end up where no one's sure of paternity and everyone's fucking everyone, but in reality, it's just on the surface. Because what they found with, I'm not sure who's familiar with bonobos, they're basically a species of monkey. They're one of our closer relatives, closer to some of us than others. But anyway, the point is that the appearance of this is that the women are the females are basically banging every dude there, and no guy knows who's the father. But what they see is the women during their proliferative phase, they're going after the alphas when they're fertile, and then when they're non-fertile, they're banging the betas to placate them. And I'm guessing this is going to be the future, is going to be women are going to be on the pill and they're going to be banging betas to kind of throw off the scent. And then they're going to be off the pill with the alpha. So they still get the full alpha sperm, alpha genetics. And they have like 7 betas thinking they're the dad, all financing the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, now we've got to a point where the betas don't care if they're the dad or not. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I love her anyway.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because like I've got a post right now that actually I thought was pretty good. It was the war on paternity. And if you look at how the social order is structured right now, we are encouraging guys to give up any idea of their own paternity. And so you want to know what comes after open cuckoldry? It goes hand in hand with denying men the importance of their own paternity.
Yeah, we should just raise any kids she has. It doesn't matter. Just raise them anyway. Just go to work.
Because you're a superhero for adopting another guy's kids. You are, exactly.
Validation seeking bullshit.
Yeah. And there's so many different ways of this right now. Because like if you go and you look, and I think it might be in France or something like that. Or actually I shouldn't say that. It's in the United States where there's these laws that are being passed that basically put a gag order on medical professionals from telling whoever is supposed to be the father of this kid. A woman can write any name she wants to on that birth certificate, and that is who officially it is. Whether those doctors later find out that through DNA testing that kid is not in fact his, they are legally bound not to say anything. They can't tell this guy that there's been fraud.
And this exactly goes. Go on.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, keep going. I'm just saying this here too. They had this big op-ed about this a little while back in Globe and Mail, but Giver, it's all yours.
But this is my exact point about why the past shouldn't be the past. As we got onto this subject, when they're saying, "Oh, just forget her past." The reason the past shouldn't be the past is because if you look at humans, we've evolved a very particular way, and what I see now is society trying to go against everything humans have evolved to be. Like there are certain trends which exist across humanity, and the fact that those trends exist in societies which never met or interacted means they must be at least partially true. The fact that in every single society since the dawn of time, it was a patriarchy and men were in charge. It doesn't matter if it's the Aztecs and the Han Dynasty. They never fucking met. This is China and Brazil or whatever. And it's just the way things worked out naturally. Every civilization since the dawn of time, men were the decision makers. Is that a coincidence? What's the math on that being a coincidence in every civilization ever? It's not a coincidence. This is the way humans have evolved to be. And if you look at the way humans have evolved, women have never been promiscuous. A female was only valuable when she was a virgin throughout the entirety of human history. In fact, in half of the world today, if you're not a virgin, you're not marriage material. And that's as we speak right now. So the only difference is society has come along and once again tried to go against human biology and correct it all and tell females they can fuck whoever they want. And the reason, and that because we have birth control, the reason that this was never accepted is exactly what you just said, paternity. You couldn't fuck whoever you wanted 200 years ago because no one knew who the dad was. And no one's going to look up to kids that aren't theirs. And if you're pregnant without a man, that's a death sentence. You're on the street and you're going to die. So that's why you had to be a virgin to ensure paternity. But nowadays we have a situation where women can fuck whoever they want without a man getting pregnant, without getting pregnant. So now women have been told only very recently in the last 30 years, society saying, well, you can fuck who you like. And the reason this went back to my original point, we say you can't forget the past. Women are not evolved to do this. Women have not, for the thousands of years humans been on the planet, been fucking loads of dudes. This is a very new experience. It's a very new experiment. Let me tell you something from my personal experience. If a girl has fucked loads of guys, she is less likely to be loyal to you and less likely to stand by you than if she's fucked less guys. Once she breaks the seal and stops giving a shit about taking a new dick, you wait. I'm telling you, wait till you have an argument. She's going to the bar and she's going to think, you know what? He's mean to me. I can do better. And she's going to fuck some random guy. If she slept with 2 or 3 guys, she ain't going to run away and fuck a random guy over a little argument. But if she's fucked 30 or 40, she has no problem taking a new dick. That stigma is gone. So you wait till your relationship gets tough. Wait till you hit financial problems. Wait till you have a fucking, who knows what can happen. And whatever happened, relationships get hard. I'm telling you, if the girl's had a whole ton of men before you, she is less likely to stick around. This is a fact of life. So when people say, oh, just forget the past, I'm not going to forget that you have advertised to me that you will not stick by me when shit gets tough. We're walking down the street, a guy tries to take your bag, I smash him in the face, and I end up going to jail for manslaughter for 5 years. Are you going to be running around fucking a bunch of dudes? Because you're, oh, well, you know, I'm lonely. I'm going to go to jail for you, and you're going to fuck a bunch of other men? That's the kind of woman you're going to end up with if she's just fucked a whole bunch of guys before you. So the reason the past still matters is because it's an absolute influence on the woman you're currently with. There is no quality, self-assured woman who's had 50 dicks. I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. And there's no woman who's going to stand by you through thick and thin who's had 50 dicks. It doesn't exist, man. And that's my genuine view. I feel free. Feminists are going to correct me, but these feminists are the most unhappy people in their relationships there's ever been. They're not loyal to fucking anyone. So they prove my point completely and utterly through and through.
Those 49 dick chicks that are awesome.
Gentlemen, let's move on to the next question from Texan214. Why do women choose to withhold sex, give up on cooking and cleaning after they've achieved a stable, long-term relationship? Doesn't this go against the security, resources, and mating imperative?
Because she doesn't respect you.
Switching costs. Once the guy has married the chick, his cost of switching to a new partner becomes too high. I mean, we can use something Tate said earlier as an example. He has an iPhone. If he has bought every single accessory you can potentially buy for an iPhone, him switching to an Android is going to be a lot more costly to him because he has to throw all that shit in the trash can. At the same time, if a guy has married a girl and he figures out, okay, she's not fucking me, she's not cooking, she's not cleaning, and she's generally nagging me and being the roommate from hell, but it's going to cost me 300 grand to get rid of her. That's going to be a much harder decision to make than if those 300 grand are not on the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll put it in a blue collar way then. Women, she will be as shitty as you let her be. If she's supposed to do all this mate retention behavior and she stops doing it and you still retain, then you've just told her that you don't need that for her to keep her around.
Absolutely.
So you can't really blame anybody but yourself.
Well, again, it also comes back to the idea that there's a certain amount of dread or passive dread that a guy has to be able to inspire in a woman if you're going to be in a long-term relationship in the first place. If a woman is, if she's withholding sex and she's not, I mean, I look at women in 2 different ways. Okay, I see the sexual side of women as being something that's valuable and commodifiable, whereas anything that goes beyond that is value added. And today, in this day and age right now, women have just basically reduced themselves to sexual commodities, and there's nothing else that is a value added aspect of it. It used to be, back in the day, a woman had to be able to have some other redeeming qualities to her, as well as being, good to breed with and good to have. And that's one of the reasons why when Andrew was saying that, in the past, a virgin was so much more valuable. Well, why is that? Because you can be certain that if she's a virgin, the kid is going to be yours. It's a hedge against hypergamy. That's a lot of religion. And I don't care what religion it is. If you go, I will be able to point out to you how that religion tried to curb hypergamy. People have known this forever. Okay. So now we get into a situation where we even have, I mean, just this question right here, what would she do? Why do women give up on sex? Why do they give up on cooking? Those value added aspects. Why do they do that? Because they can. Because they can do that now, because we've allowed it to the point where that women don't need men as much. I still think they do need them quite a bit, but as much as far as their resource transfer and their long-term security. I always look at it in this way. There's alpha fucks and beta bucks. The beta buck side of hypergamy is already taken care of. It's done for them, whether it's through an ex-husband, whether it's through alimony, whether it's through the state, whether it's through special dispensations, going to college, getting grants and loans and everything. I mean, you think about all of the many, many ways that we advantage women in society to make sure that they are taken care of and they can be strong, independent women, right? So we've got that side of the hypergamous equation taken care of. What's left? Well, the only thing that's left is alpha sex. And so, yeah, a woman can do that. She knows that if she gets out of the relationship, even in a divorce, she's probably going to come out on top. She's probably going to get the kids. She's probably going to, all of her friends are, her emotional base of support is going to be there. And he's going to look like an asshole, even if she cheats on him. It's still his fault.
Well, let's take it, instead of dread, just self-respect. Like, I'll tie Carl's point to Andrew's point here to your thing here. It's going to be fucking clever. You're going to love this. So let's say Tate there gets a girl, she loves him, and then she starts pulling this shit where she stops becoming useful. And she knows he won't leave because he's going to lose one of his Lambos. I can picture you're going to be kind of my stepfather that way, where you would rather burn it to the ground than give it to her and start fresh. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, let me tell you a few things here. Firstly, we live in the world of cryptocurrency, so I don't know why anyone ain't just putting a whole ton of money in Bitcoin.
It's on the principle of it.
Exchanges. And telling and going to court and saying I'm broke. Because that's the first thing I'd do. I'll pull up in my Lambo, say I have nothing. I'll put it in my brother's name. So that's the first thing. I ain't giving him nothing. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I like what you said, Ryan. The reason she stopped doing what she's doing is because she doesn't have to anymore. People will only work as hard as they need to work. It's not just about relationships, it's about anything in the world. If you could be a world champion boxer without training, who would train? You don't bother. You do what you need to do to be successful. If she retains your loyalty with zero work, why is she going to work? She's not going to, and that's a standard you have set. And absolutely, what you just said about burning it to the ground is important, because I am not going to live in a relationship where I'm not respected. I'm not going to be living in a relationship where I'm not respected. I don't care what I fucking lose. And
That's how I got here, man. I'm with you.
But the great thing is, the woman will know that about me. She'll know, well, you know what? If I fuck with this guy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we go to court. It doesn't matter. He doesn't give a shit. He's going to make sure, And the greatest thing about it, I like what Rollo was saying earlier about how when she leaves the relationship, she's gonna have the kids, she's gonna have the house, she's gonna have things. There's also something else she's definitely gonna have. She's never gonna be lonely. She can go to any bar any day and fuck. And if you're a dude, and I don't know who this guy is who asked the question, what I think this situation really comes down to is you're put yourself in a situation, maybe you're out of shape, maybe whatever, but your sexual market value is so low that she knows you're gonna be lonely for a long time. She knows I ain't gotta do shit, because if he fucks with me too tough, I'll go to the bar and get a new him, and he's going to be sitting there jacking his dick for fucking 8 months. And that's the difference. When a woman knows you can when a woman knows you can go and at least fuck something, she ain't even got to be pretty. She just got to be something. She ain't going to be fucking with you too much. There's not a wife in the world who's going to be like, you know what? I'm never going to give him sex, but I know he can fuck any girl in this bar. It ain't going to happen. It's going to be, well, I don't have to give him sex because no one will give him sex. And that's what it's going to be. Remember, women never experience loneliness. That's their number one card, especially in later years. Whoever this woman is and whoever this dude is, she knows she can bail and replace him, and he cannot bail and replace her. Because if she understood that he could, she wouldn't be playing these games. She wouldn't be playing these games. She'd be trying her best to keep you happy, and that's the absolute truth.
Moving on to the next question. This actually is a text one that someone sent in over the phone. This one's directly for Rollo. Question for the chat. I'd like to know about the dynamic with Rollo's marriage and how his wife responds to his red pill knowledge. Also, is Rollo's wife 100% with him?
Well, I should actually put that out to you and Ryan and all the people who met my wife at the 21 convention. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, you guys, I can go here and give you a detailed rundown of my dynamic in my marriage. I always tell guys, hey, look, don't use my marriage as a template for your future success. I do, however, relate that the success of my marriage is almost 100% to my being red pill aware. So is my wife aware of what I do? Yeah, of course. How could she not be? We've been married for, in July, it'll be 22 years. She knows what I do for a living. She knows that I'm around beautiful women all the time. She knows that, just as part of my past, me being a semi-pro musician back in the day and doing, just being me and doing what I've done in the past, she understands that. And we, I would like to think she looks up to me. I mean, you guys saw, whenever we're around, she's, it's one of those things where it's like, when we're talking about how when guys take pictures with their woman, how the woman is like looking out and looking away, or he's leaning in, or you look at these beta tells. I looked at that and I thought about that, and I'm like, I wonder if I've ever done that. And I went back through my pictures with my wife, and I'm like, she's looking up at me in damn near all of these pictures. Yep. And so I was like, well, that right there should show you that there's an outward sign as to what the dynamic is in my marriage right now.
Yeah, when I read the question, I already knew the answer. I just figured it would be appropriate for you to answer it yourself.
Yeah, what was the second part of that?
It was also, is Rolo's wife 100% with him? And I can say positively that not only from my perspective and observation is she 100% with you, she's 100% proud of your work.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think she even mentioned that too when we were at the 21.
She told me that straight to my face when I asked her about it.
And
nobody gets off a winning horse.
She understands exactly. She understands what she's got with me, and we've got a really good relationship, and we've got a great kid, and I've done really well for myself, and I've done really well for us as well. So, but I do that. And I think probably if I want to add one more thing to this, I'm realistic about things. Guys constantly say, well, how can you be married and talk about the things you do? Aren't you worried? Don't you know, got MGTOWs all the time. Don't you know she can take you for everything you have at a moment's notice? Like, yeah, dude, I know that, I wrote the book on 3 books on this. And so it's like, yeah, of course I know this shit, but it's like, I understand that women can go feral. And I also understand that if I am solid in my frame, if I've been zeroed out at least a couple times since I've been married, financially, but I've sprung back from that, and I've built myself even better than I was before, even as bad as that situation was. And if I had to let myself go, I went into depression and started drinking and killing myself, socially and mentally. Yeah, of course, I would expect not just my wife, but any woman to have the same reaction. I mean, they want a guy that women want a guy that other women want to fuck and other men want to be. And I think that I'm in a position right now, at 50 years old, that I can honestly say that I'm in a really good state with my marriage right now. But can that all fall apart at a moment's notice? Yes. If I let myself turn into a big fat shitbag, sure. Yeah.
I think
it might not even be your fault.
A lot of the time they ask this particular question because I think people who ask this question, if you're a beta or you're a soy boy or whatever, your wife is constantly displeased with you. People say, like, I can't believe your wife is happy with you knowing you do this. And the reason they say is their wife is unhappy with them for breathing. If you ever look at the relationship where the woman's in charge, she's unhappy with the dude. He can wake up and just blink. So you're always fucking blinking. Just treats him like absolute garbage. We say men are abusive. Women in power are abusive over their man. Absolutely abusive. So when people ask this question, they're like, how can Rolo or how can Ryan or whatever, how can Tate go on there and say what he says and a woman not just rip him to shreds? It's like, because they're happy with us and they're happy with who we are as individuals and they're happy with our dynamic. And that's they struggle to understand that because they've never had it.
And then right after that, what do they say? They say, "Oh, she must be defeated. You must really have her under your thumb. She must really be insecure to be with a guy like you." And then they change that around because anything that does not fit into what they've invested their egos into, they have to find some way to defend against it. So I can remember, I remember one time I was at a I think it was at a lunch or something like that. And I was with some of the people I was working with. And I think probably most of them were women. My wife calls me up and she says, can I spend X amount of dollars on makeup or something like that? And these bitches listened to this. They heard it through my phone. Right? and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Whatever. We just really brief conversation, hung up. And these women looked at me like, I'm like, what? And they're like, she calls you to ask permission to spend money. I'm like, yeah, because she respects me for what we do. Yeah. It's like, it's not like she, she's like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the money itself. It's that there's a degree of respect, that there's a degree of understanding and acknowledging my frame.
Well, per your criticism,
if those girls picked up their phone, was there a man they could call or was there none?
No, I say probably, I think all of them were divorced or remarried at some
So,
Well,
yeah, well,
Rollo,
at least somebody's calling me, bitch.
Yeah.
this also reminds me of Rollo's criticism of Jordan Peterson, which this sounds to me like a healthy dominance hierarchy in a family. It's normal, but these women are seeing it as abnormal and it's unusual for them, given the state of the culture.
Women want a man who's in charge. Women want a man who's in charge. When you go to meet a girl and you meet her on a date, and you say, let's go for dinner, and she goes, where? And you go, I don't know, you choose. Watch her not turn up. Just say, I'm here. She doesn't give a fuck where. She wants to see you lead. You could choose the worst place on earth. Just choose somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Decisiveness
Indecisiveness.
and competency. Decisiveness and competency.
Decisiveness and competency were the signs that the man you're with is going to keep you alive when a fucking saber-tooth turns up not too long ago. This is evolutionarily programmed. They want a man who's in charge. There's nothing wrong with being in charge, and there's nothing wrong with her submitting. The happiest women in the world are submissive to their men. And that doesn't, when you say that, people imagine you like you're going to fucking dungeon them and beat the shit out of them. No. Little things like
Dungeon them.
I don't know.
Get the gimp.
You know where I'm coming from. Like, it's little things like you just described. That's a sign of submission, and that's a happy relationship dynamic. But that scene is completely abnormal now.
I don't think Rollo's new Florida house has a basement in it for the dungeon.
No,
so
not yet.
I
think that's interesting. That actually is a good point there, Andrew. Is that it's seen as abnormal right now. It's not the norm. It's something that it seems like there's sort of an abusive or a dysfunctional aspect if the woman is actually happy in the frame of her husband, or is in guys always say, I think that, and this is actually probably a good follow-up to that. I get this a lot too, that if you are in a long-term relationship, if you've decided to get married, and I think maybe they have a point in this day and age, but if you decide to get married, or if you decide to be in a monogamous long-term relationship, you are automatically blue pill. You're automatically beta because you have decided to cut off all of your other opportunities just to follow one chick. And I honestly think I don't think that's fair, first of all. And then second of all, I think that it's sort of short-sighted because, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, if you're going to be with somebody for, if you're going to get in a marriage, you're going to pretend that's going to be for forever. The very best that you can do, I think, is more important to be red pill as you possibly can, and to be more aware and to understand how things work with the nature of women and the nature of men. Because if you don't, you're going to end up a statistic. That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the next question. This one came from a little while ago. Shit, where was it? There it is.
Ask Sterling's question, man. Ask his. I'm curious. I really want to know.
We'll get to that. I saw that one. We'll get to that one next. This one was a little while ago from RP Mamba, excuse me.
Nice.
Do you guys believe America will fall the same way Europe is, or will America's collapse be different? So he's assuming that America's going to collapse as well.
Fall in what way? Fall in the sense that feminist governments are allowing migrants to come in and
probably
basically destroy their countries.
10 years ago.
I don't like to get into socio-political stuff too much, but I do when there is an aspect of dynamics, and I don't think you can possibly ignore the fact that Sweden right now is a feminist governed country right now, and we're look at the results of that.
Sweden.
Yeah, well, look at Germany. We look at Germany. We have a feminist run government. Look at the UK right now. What do we got? What's her name there?
Theresa May.
Yeah, Theresa May. You might as well have a feminist run government in France right now. Look at the state of those countries right now. There's no getting around it. You can't ignore the fact that the crisis that these, even if you believe in the mass migration, even if you're an open borders guy, you still cannot deny that there is a crisis in those countries.
Well, let's look at this. Let's look at this. Like we were saying earlier about how society has come along and it's going against natural human instincts. Since when have females in history ever been responsible for protecting a territory? Ever. Yeah. They have no territorial instinct. They're not territorial in regards to when a man sees another man. You're walking through the forest in caveman days. You see another man. The first thing you're ready to do is fight. Like, who the fuck's this guy? This is a natural male instinct. You're cautious of foreigners, as you should be, and you're very protective of what you have. Females have never been territorial ever. And women are a lot more maternal as well. Oh, the poor immigrants, the poor Syrians, we need to help them. That's a female attitude. When you combine these two attitudes and they have influence over the entire government, you have unchecked migration. And I'm telling you from someone who's left Western Europe to live in Eastern Europe. And Eastern Europe are currently being sued by the European Union because they have zero acceptance. They're accepting zero migrants. Because Eastern Europe is saying, look, Syria is not our fucking problem, so we're not letting any in. It's not our issue. We didn't fuck it up. The Syrians started their own civil war. Whatever happened, but it's not our problem. So there's a big thing going on in Europe right now. But you look at the Western governments where men are beta and the females are in charge. They're not territorial. They're a lot more maternal. And you have this massive influx of migrants. And these migrants, look, all people are equal, whatever. People should be given equal opportunity. But when you come from a savage society, you're going to have a certain mindset. We're all results of our society. So to say you're going to let in millions of people from a certain war-torn fucking dive and expect them to just instantly start waiting in line and taking the bus is fucking insanity. And it's a female-led agenda. You're completely right. The countries with female leaders are doing this because women have never been territorial over anything. And once again, it goes back to destroying masculinity, destroying the warrior class. The reason they don't, I don't know if you've ever watched, I know a lot about this because I've been living through it. You watch the anti-immigrant protests in Poland. Millions of people, forget hundreds of thousands, because the Polish men, every time there's a terrorist attack in England or America, they're like, we're not putting walls around our Christmas markets. We're not hiding behind walls. We live in a society where we can do what we fucking want, and we're not afraid of nobody. And that's because this is Poland run by Polish people, and no one's coming here to fuck with our stuff. And the Polish won't tolerate it because men are men. But in the Western society where they've destroyed warrior class, men are too afraid to, if you say anything, you're racist, or you get arrested. You get arrested for putting it on Twitter. If you say anything, that's hate speech. So you go to jail. So they've just destroyed the warrior class to the point where they can do whatever the fuck they want. And that's why this once again ties into the mission of just destroying men, destroying their morale, destroying warriors, and just having a completely feminized society and just pretending that letting in all these people. Rape in Sweden has gone up 4,000%. 4,000%. And they're gonna you're letting your daughters get raped by immigrants, and you're sitting there saying, oh, but they need help. It's fucking insane. It's crazy.
Well, part of that too probably is the ever-shifting foundation of what rape even is. They keep redefining it, like goalpost shifting over time. But yeah, you have that too, the Muslim stuff.
At the same time, Anthony, if you change the definition of something, that can do two things. You can drive up the number of incidents you record, but it can also conceal how many are actually real, because a lot of us are sitting here now saying that, well, the reason why rape is up by 4,000% is because they widened the definition to the point where looking at a woman the wrong way is rape. But
I think it's
at the same time.
Good.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you change that definition, then everyone is going to make the exact same chain of reasoning we just did. So if you're trying to conceal the fact that you have a lot more violent rapes, that's a brilliant tactic for it. But I think
how Whoopi Goldberg said, it's not rape. It's just rape. Like, fuck.
Well,
do you guys know? Well,
Andrew?
this is really interesting. Do you guys know about what happened in Hamburg on New Year's Eve, or Germany?
Yeah.
So you look at this.
Not Hamburg.
Remind me?
Oh, sorry, it was all over Germany. It was every major German city. This is directly tied to immigrants, just so they don't want to report it. You can Google Germany New Year's Eve sexual. Just Google sexual. That's enough. Because of the immigrants, it was the first year the immigrants came in, and there was something like 10,000 reports of women literally being molested and grabbed on the street by men of Middle Eastern descent. They've never seen women before. They've never seen chicks with fucking their tits out or dressed that way, ever. And that's directly linked to immigrants, and they still did nothing about it because the men are cucked. They've destroyed the warrior class. It's a feminized society. Women are making all the decisions. Women don't understand being territorial, and they're sitting there destroying Europe. And the crazy thing about it is this: in 200 years from now, in Japan somewhere, there's going to be a Japanese professor talking to Japanese kids, talking about how Europe destroyed itself by letting in whoever they fucking wanted. And it's going to be completely Japanese run, and they're still going to have no crime.
Well, from a socio-sexual perspective, it's like they're just importing alpha males by the millions.
Yeah,
they ran out.
That's what I was going to say. Is like I wrote this post called "The War Brides of Europe," which was a follow-on from my very old post called "War Brides," and what I was getting into there is just how the dynamic that's working out with these feminist-run countries right now is very reflective of the war brides dynamic. And look at look at who these governments are allowing in. They're not saying, oh, we want all of these great guys who are going to identify with our very gender neutral, very progressed, very evolved sense of, gender equality. They're not inviting them in. Who are they inviting in? They're inviting in very super hyper masculine, toxic masculine guys to come in and be a part of that country, hoping that they're going to assimilate. But I will guarantee you that if you look at it, and you can look at this just statistically, I would say that the people that they are allowing into these countries or inviting into these countries are the exact opposite, or these are the same mindset that they would throw someone in jail for, like Tate was just saying a minute ago, for being masculine or banning them from speaking. And then like you see. What was it? I think we were talking about the increase in rape, or the New Year's Eve rape thing that was going on. Maybe it was Hamburg or something, or there was something similar to that was going on in the Netherlands. And she, Eben Thranholm, she's the lady who has done this video. She was saying that, look at the rise in this, and then look at the response to it. What's the response? The response is to make it illegal for men to catcall women on the street. And how do the men respond? Do the men stand up and try, form, gangs or brigades or whatever to like defend these women on the street? No, you know what they do? They go and put on high heel shoes. They put on dresses, and they walk in solidarity with women to protest this rise in rape. It's like, those are the guys who are supposed to be defending you, and they are exactly the result of what Andrew was just saying a minute ago. They're killing off the warrior class. They're breeding it out. They're breeding out that those guys.
I wanted to say, back to the original question about America collapsing, I don't think our future's set in stone as a country, and I think the election of Trump and all the issues surrounding that is a good example of a masculine pushback, or the beginning of a new era.
Yeah, I'm not of the mind that all hope is lost. I know there's guys who are like, well, let's just go have a drink poolside and watch the world burn. I don't think so. I think that there is a definite possibility that we can swing the pendulum back, and I've seen it happen before. Maybe call me optimistic if you want, but I'm not one of these, sit by the poolside guys.
America still has hope. Western Europe is absolutely and utterly finished. And I think the largest enemy to America, what I find crazy, is the largest enemy to America. People talk about Russia. People talk about fucking, I don't know, Syria. So whatever. The largest enemy to America are the liberal morons marching down the street. The largest enemy to America are the people inside of America, the people who refuse to allow America to be put first and defend its borders and protect itself and instigate any kind of law. Those are the people who are going to destroy America. Rome wasn't destroyed from the outside. It was destroyed from the inside by a class of people who were too decadent to go to war and defend themselves. And they just want to sit around all day drinking wine and just fuck it about. And that's when it came down to throw down, the barbarians are at the gate. All of a sudden, they don't want to have anything to do with it. So they thought, let's let the barbarians in and let's just be nice to them. Maybe they'll be nice back. And before you know it, Rome's over. It's liberal ideals that are going to rot the West from the inside out. Russia's sitting there thinking, we don't have to beat America in a war. Just wait long enough. All the dudes will be dressed as women anyway. So that's where, if the West is going to fall from the inside, absolutely.
Carl?
Well, I think the whole concept is, one thing no one's mentioned here is High Sparrow Trudeau up in the northern part of the lands here, because one of the reasons why Europeans and Brexit happened was that they realized that Merkel has just let in several 100,000 crazy motherfuckers.
Millions.
And in 5 years, they're going to be able to travel freely within the European Union. Mm-hmm. Well, Trump is building the wall against Mexico, but Mexicans are generally masculine and hardworking. What's going to happen? He should build a wall along the northern border, too, to prevent the migrants to Canada from rushing southward and trashing the entire continent like a Zerg rush.
No, we're taking them. That's the problem. Do you not know Montreal is packed right now? They ran out of homes. They're actually what's happening here in Toronto is they're paying 12 months free rent to come up and move to Toronto after seeking asylum from the U.S. because they're kicking you out for being whatever. And then at the end of the 12 months, they think, oh, you just come here and they give you money and you live. That's great. And then at month 13, they're like, oh, we actually have to find a job. Sorry about that. So you have homeless people in outlet mall clothes begging for change in the suburbs. It's fucking weird.
Yeah. It's insanity, man. It's crazy.
Build a Canadian wall.
I think
After the
I think,
Mexican
Wow, Quebec wall.
I think Andrew's right about that, though. I do think that the greatest threat to, well, it's really societal stability in the United States is really this futurist female push. We're looking, and you see this more. I think it sort of became more highlighted once Hillary had lost the election.
Yeah.
And I think that now you're seeing this really super hostile backlash because a man took away from a woman her position that she was supposed, remember it was her turn, right? It was she's the one who gets to be next. Everyone was so fucking sure that she was going to be the next president, and then they took that away. And a man, probably the most horrible, toxically masculine guy that could possibly, take that away from her and take that away from them. He's the guy who's in the office right now. And that's why they won't let it go. That's why they're trying to find any and every last thing that they can to take him out of office. But they just, right now, I think that I'm so glad that Hillary Clinton did not win the presidency. And I'm not, I mean, I'll say right here now, I mean, you can say what you want to about Trump. I'm not a big, happy, Trump fan, but I am glad that he is the president right now and that she is not the president right now.
Completely agree.
I'm a big supporter.
What you're saying
I think he's fucking great.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
Tate 2020.
Tate 2020. Yeah, man. Imagine the protest then.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next very serious question that we had. It was Ryan. Did you see that one? Where was it at? Basically, Rollo, the question was for you, Rollo. It's why do you have Thor's Odin hammer or whatever it is on your neck?
I'm a big fan of Jack Donovan. That's why.
Okay.
No, it's just something that I have. It's my descendant, my nationality is Danish and Scandinavian, so I don't know. That's why.
Okay. We thought we had to get to that.
You're very curious. Yeah. I know. Just something I have. It's so funny that Jack Donovan and his tribe of guys that are up in Oregon have this one tree where they hang all these necklaces, and they've all got like necklaces like this, like the Thor's, the Odin's hammer kind of thing. And I'm half a mind to give him this necklace so he can take it and put it on the tree when I see him in October.
Yeah, Jack Donovan's actually a confirmed speaker again this year for the 21 convention. So he'll be there.
We need to get Andrew out. We need Andrew to come out to Orlando in October.
Maybe. We're running out of spots. But Andrew, I'd love to have you speak, if not this year, then 2019.
Or
either in America.
Or just have him come out. Let's just get him.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're very much welcome to come out.
You're a speechwriter, Andrew. You can nail it.
Andrew, so you're in the loop too. I'm actually very much strongly considering an event in Europe again, our fourth one, and it'd probably be in Poland, Warsaw.
Cool. It's not far from me.
Yeah. I thought about Romania too, but I'm not sure about the free speech laws. I'm a little bit worried about that.
No,
but
Romania's cool, man. Romania. I think that I don't know. Like when I speak to Romanians and tell them the kind of liberal shit that's going on in the West, they don't believe it. Because over here, none of that's real. Like there are no feminists. And all men are men, and it's just like it's the way society is.
Yeah.
So when I try and say, "Oh yeah, in the West this happened," they're like, "What the fuck? What?" They really can't believe it's real.
Well, what's crazy is we used to host the 21 convention in Sweden and in London, once in Sweden and twice in London. And at this point, I don't think it's physically, legally possible to do that. They wouldn't even let me in the country at this point, or any other speakers, many of you guys.
Oh, they pulled a Roosh and banned you from Britain, possibly?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
They would in a heartbeat, I think. Yeah, totally.
Australia, too.
Yeah,
we did Australia, too, back in the day. We can't go back there now. Like, there's no fucking way.
They call people cunt as a hello. How could they possibly not like what you're saying?
Well, I've decided to call feminism the ultimate hate and supremacist movement in the world. So I don't think they're going to like that.
But Ryan, the correct answer is because they're cunts.
Exactly. Cunty cunts.
Well, there's your monetization gone now.
Who cares? We had another question. If you guys want to dig into it, it's not a huge question. From Gary Jones, how common do you think BPD, borderline personality disorder, is nowadays among Western women? This is a question we'll probably dig into. Go ahead.
I don't think it's more common than it used to be, but I think it's more acceptable to act out those behaviors. if you look at, like, Rollo knows, and Ryan too, that I love studying fringe groups because I think that's where you get the most interesting extreme levels that you can extrapolate to the center. And if you look at something like the health at every size / body positivity movement, that's one of the more BPD movements that exists. And this is coming from a guy who once diagnosed feminism as having borderline personality disorder as a system of thought. Because what it essentially is there's no such thing as reality. Everything is about me. Everyone needs to act the way I want them to act. And there was even a woman who made the argument that, you know, if a woman who is 450 pounds wants to sleep with you, you have no choice. You have to sleep with her. Otherwise, you're perpetuating fat phobia and thin privilege.
Clown world, man.
Yeah, I think just on the BPD point there, I think you're right. I think that the behaviors. One of the reasons I didn't really want to believe that the girl, like one of my ex-girlfriends had BPD. I just didn't want to believe that. Well, first of all, I didn't know what BPD was, and that's half of it right there. I think a lot of guys don't understand that the behaviors and the crazy manic, depressive behaviors that go along with that. We want to forgive women for that. We want to say, oh well, you know, she's just jealous because she really loves me, you know. Yeah, she just does all that. She's just crazy like that because you know, all women are crazy like that. And you want to sweep it under the carpet because you're usually getting pretty good sex with that BPD, right? Until until it becomes something that you know, it's hard because you're as a guy, you're kind of wrapped up in the sex side of it, and you're loving every second of it when she's having sex with you. But when you're out of bed and she manifests all the jealousy and the possessiveness and the, you know, borderline violence, she isolates you from your family. You want to sort of give her the benefit of the doubt because the sex is really good. But, you know, and that's why it's so hard to really understand that. And then societally, we think of that kind of behavior set as just something women do, or it's our problem. And that's what I did. And I think you probably did the same thing too, Anthony. It's like when you get into a relationship with a borderline personality disordered woman, you tend to associate or assimilate her problems as being the root of her problems. So if you would just be like more like this, or if you would just behave more like this, then she wouldn't be crazy. And then you modify yourself and you change yourself into somebody that you think that she's going to expect you to be. But it's never satisfied. It never happens.
There were elements of that she expressed, but I'm extremely stubborn and I tend to not do anything anyone tells me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely the pull for that. And I remember explicitly like conversations like that.
For me,
There's also the fact that the way that a woman behaves around an alpha male is that's some pretty good treatment you're getting there, but a borderline is like that times 100 or 1,000, because it's the same behaviors a woman manifests around an alpha or a normal woman, if there's such a thing. But it's like doing that plus a lot of cocaine, a lot of expensive whiskey, and a couple of hundred hookers on top of that.
Yep.
Well, let's put it this way. It's not what happens. Will I find a bipolar? Is there more bipolar? It's that it's not a disease. It's just
borderline, not bipolar.
Or sorry, same thing. It's extreme woman. So every guy's going to have it, but it's going to be at a 4. And it's not until it gets to an 8 that it becomes a clinical diagnosis. It's just what a bunch of doctors decided was at that point, you're crazy. Before that, you're not so bad. So you're going to get it. And if you have any amount of like approaches, dating, let's say it's 1 out of 100. If you're a decent guy, you're going to approach at least 100 women, if not sleeping with 100 by the time you got some experience. So you're going to see it. You're going to see girls at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all the way up to 8 and 9. And that's the problem. Because when you find like an 8 out of 10 feminine woman, you think, oh, this is great. But then you forget she's also got 8 out of 10 of the worst qualities. So it's not so much that, it's something you have to be careful of. It's just you're going to get it to some degree. You just got to pick a level that you can, I guess, handle, lack of a better word.
I found this great article this week because it was in the Telegraph, I think, about a guy who, there was a case in England, I think, where the guy was like, well, you know, she stabbed me with screwdrivers and she threw boiling hot water over me, but I thought that was just normal relationship behavior. And I kind of retweeted that with a comment, you know, I know we do a shit job of telling men about relationships in the West. Can we at least tell them that scalding hot water and being stabbed is not, you know, what a woman normally is supposed to do for you in a relationship?
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to point out.
I was going to ask. I wanted to ask Andrew a question. Actually, this kind of you. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Andrew is a MMA fighter, and what were you, like, the world champion of?
Kickboxer. So I was a K1 world champion. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that there is, like, being around violence is something that women are aroused by when it's like male on male violence? Do you think it's something that they get off on?
There's never been a ring girl I haven't fucked ever.
Yeah.
So, well, let's start with that.
Awesome.
It's like, absolutely. Women like the idea of, women like to feel protected. Cut the bull. Look, I think Twitter can distort the view sometimes, because sometimes you'll say something like that and there'll be so many females coming on disputing that. If you ask 100 women on the street, do you like to feel protected? 99 are going to say yes. Twitter's retard land. You go to the real world, women like to feel protected. So knowing as a man that you have a physical ability is absolutely appealing to a female. On top of that, if they see you whoop a guy's ass, there's no part of them that doesn't like that. They like to see a man whoop the dude's ass. You know, these are all primal things. We're talking everything I've tried to say, all my proof for it as such. People saying, well, how do you know that? I say, look at forget the new age, because the new age is fucked. In the new age, a man can take pills and pretend he's a woman, and fucking a 3-year-old can be transgender and dumb shit. I'm talking about how humans have always been for hundreds of thousands of years. So that's what I base my observations on, because this clown world, you can't draw very much from it. So women have always liked a man who could protect them, and women have always, as you were saying about war brides, succumbed to a victim. They find that extremely appealing. Here's the fact. You want to say something about women? The French women were fucking every Nazi in Paris. These were the men who were complicit in the murder of their husbands, but they were the winners. And you know what? You can be angry and you can miss your husband, but when you're horny, you want a winner. And that's the reality. This is the absolute reality of the world. So violence is the purest form of win and lose. It's the oldest sport. It's the oldest competition that's ever existed. So absolutely and utterly, females respect it. Females love the idea and they feel protected by, and they love the idea of a winner. Yeah. And so for this reason, surely there's be girl all on Twitter. Who gives a fuck? You're toxically masculine. All this absolute bollocks. There's not a female alive who wouldn't want a man who could fight when shit went down.
Well, that's one of the reasons I was asking that, is because we're constantly getting. I've been feeling these questions about these women who, like that kid in Florida, for instance, the shooter. He's getting all these love letters in jail right now, and this is a very common phenomenon for, like, convicted felons and killers that are, behind bars. I had other guys telling me that they have to take the female prison guards and keep them isolated from some of the male prisoners, because they're afraid that the women will fall in love with these guys and try to break them out of prison. And then like this one kid, like the Boston bomber, I can't remember his name, Sarnev, I think is what it is. But you see all these kids these guys who end up going to jail, or you get like somebody like Chris Brown, who beats up Rihanna, and women say, well, he could beat me up anytime I want on Twitter, because they just want to get with the guy. And I think that is one of those truths we were talking about before, where we hold up this mirror and we say, look, here's the proof, here's what I'm talking about. And they don't want to have to confront that, especially not on Twitter, where everybody's like watching them. But I think you're right. I think violence is the ultimate form of social proof for guys.
Nothing says alpha like killing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is how, men have always been. Like, now we live in a society of dialogue, but only 1,000 years ago, if someone pissed you off, it doesn't matter who's right and wrong. It matters who has the bigger fucking, who gives a shit,
Dude, it used to be legally permissible to shoot somebody for calling you a liar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dueling and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say when they were dueling with swords and with rapiers and stuff back in the Renaissance times, it was like you had to walk around with a sword all the time because you could basically just kill somebody.
Even in
Not
America.
even the Renaissance. Yeah, you guys didn't have your vice president kill your secretary of state or something.
I believe so. Yeah. Yep.
Well, Andrew Jackson got the nickname Old Hickory because he almost beat a man to death with his hickory walking cane after he insulted his wife or something.
Yeah.
Hey guys, on the old borderline question too, I wanted to mention that we eventually will do a show dedicated to cluster B disorders, and you can visit femalepsychopath.com and sign up for free, and eventually be launching a free website dedicated to those issues, dangerous personalities in women.
When it comes to like disorders and this kind of thing, I kind of think like I've had a few people ask me that question, and I kind of think, I don't know, maybe this is personal, but I'm not really in the business of trying to fix anybody. Like,
hell no.
You gotta be living your life, and if she's a 10 out of 10 and you love the sex, but you know that any kind of cohabitation with her, hell, you just have to understand that everyone has a purpose, and her purpose is to make a once in a while. And just keep her on keep her on WhatsApp for when you're lonely and drunk or whatever.
Carl has an excellent saying for this.
Else.
These are the women you sleep with but do not fall asleep with.
Yeah,
which is the ultimate deal with it.
Just keep
Captain Save-A-Ho, it's never good, man.
Yeah, if you're like, I'm gonna she's crazy, but that if you're gonna be that guy, you just don't sign up for that shit. Just fucking have your thing going on, and everyone's got a use, and it is what it is. Like, find a woman who's more grounded and more based. You don't want especially in the society, especially in the Western world, as we've discussed earlier. You don't want women who switch. You don't need some bitch who's going to decide to try and ruin your life, because she'll do a pretty good job. So you don't need that shit. Like, I've had guys come to me and go, my girlfriend's doing this. I'm like, mate, just stop being like, you're just gonna be man enough to find something else, because that just sounds like fucking. That's gonna end in one place. It's probably in you with a fake rape claim or some shit. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, as shitty as you let her be.
Yeah, we should
it's like I read the married red pill the other day, and I almost decided to go down Toronto in a van.
Oh my god!
Jesus Christ!
With that said, we're gonna have to start. Let's start winding down. It's been about 2 hours. I want to thank each of you guys for joining on the show today. Welcome back, of course, in the future, anytime, like always.
Yeah, we definitely got to get Andrew back on again. I'd love to have you on with Rich too. That'd be great.
Yeah, the first time you met, man, you're hilarious.
I would like to get Andrew, and this would be a cool show. Get Andrew, Christian McQueen, Goldman, and like Rich or something like that. Would be great.
Yep. Alan Roger Curry too would be good.
Yeah. There's another one.
So with that said, thanks everybody for tuning in live. Appreciate the super chats, the interaction, engagement, much appreciated. Tune in next Saturday on our channel. Most likely it'll be on youtube.com/21, 1 p.m. on Saturdays. And occasionally it's hosted on Richard Cooper's channel as well, Entrepreneurs in Cars. It was actually supposed to host today's, but something happened, so we picked it up. But we kind of go back and forth, we bounce. Also, tickets will go on sale in May to the 21 Convention 2018 being held this October in Central Florida in Orlando. Alumni will get first access to tickets, followed by 21 university students, followed by everybody else. So stay tuned at the 21convention.org to sign up and get on the VIP list for that. Also, check the video description for links to all the speakers in the show, their Twitter accounts, websites, everything like that. Visit their sites, read their content, buy their books, and support what they do, if they have anything like that. Ryan doesn't, but maybe someday he will. He should.
Well,
get some Skype coaching going, something like that.
We'll see.
I
This
think
business
book
thing.
about the married red pill would be brilliant. Like married red pill. Sometimes you have to just climb out of that abyss before it stares back at you.
Burn it all to the ground. Start again. It's the easiest way.
Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up the live portion. We can stay on and chat privately. Everybody else, thank you for tuning in live. See you next Saturday.